There are really four basic steps to how the conservative movement talks about issues and pushes their agenda. And it really applies across the board, whether you're talking about domestic policy or foreign policy. The first step with the conservative movement is that they recharacterize the problem facing the country to be something very different from what real-world experience would show. And so Social Security is going bankrupt, or Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction, and so forth. They, instead of looking and focusing on our real problem, they say, well, here's something else that we should be worried about, and they pound away at it again and again and again, and there's a drumbeat of fear that they create. Another step that they have in that process is to identify scapegoats. Who's responsible for this problem that we have and is standing in the way of a solution, this imaginary problem? And so it's teachers' unions, it's the UN, it's bureaucrats, it's regulators. I mean, there's always in the process some group that's identified as being the reason why we're not better off. And again, they hammer away at them relentlessly to the point where people start to believe these groups are evil and heinous. And then they propose a solution that would address the imaginary problem by advancing something that would be on their agenda anyway. And on the domestic front, it invariably entails weakening government. And so again, in the case of Social Security, let's privatize the system, which has the effect of undercutting the system that we have, though it's in essence a way of phasing out Social Security. They or invade Iraq. I mean, there's just this set of agenda items they want to get to, but they need to work back at it by starting with, we have to recharacterize what the problem is. And the final step is, after their solution fails, to try to explain away the failure in ways that are ludicrous, that distort the reality, And so we haven't failed in Iraq, we just have to keep at it, and it wasn't a bad idea in the first place, it was the right thing to do, we have to keep going after it. In the case of school vouchers, which again haven't worked wherever they've been tried, we just have to do more vouchers. We have to privatize those systems even more than they've been, even though there's no evidence that what they've suggested is working. We've seen what the conservative movement has done, nothing but damage, and the progressive orientation is to look at real-world results and build on successes. And that's how things work in the real world. That's how you make progress. And the ideas that progressives have been developing and continue to have on their agenda are all based on real-world experiences and observations, not ideology, not sort of a fantastic vision of what society is like or ought to be like. And hopefully that real-world grounding will, I think, be recognized more broadly by the public as being pointing to the way to successful government, because they've seen what happens now if you don't have that grounding, if you're just talking about ideology and belief systems, that produces one failure after another. I think where progressives have fallen short in relation to conservatives is, how do we sell those ideas or sell those policies? And it's precisely because there's no simple solution or panacea to any of these problems that it's very difficult to say, in a sentence, here's how this would work, here's what we think ought to happen. When I was growing up, my father was in the federal government. He was actually deeply involved in the busing period, both in the South and later in Massachusetts during the busing crisis in Boston. He was a supporter of school integration and believed that was the way we needed to go to help create opportunities for African American students, particularly. Pretty much everything, and again, there's a lie dedicated to the book to my father, and it's an outgrowth of seeing in action from his experience that government actually does have the capacity to improve people's lives if you believe in it and if you work hard and you're pragmatic about things. And seeing our country go as badly off track as it has by not being pragmatic and by following ideology really drove me to do this.